Hello, this is Keith Harsher, Executive Director of the IoT M2M Council, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to track 2 within our Consumer IoT Summit, presented by the IMC. Hope everyone joining us is staying safe and well in these interesting times. The topic for this track is IoT sustainability for consumer applications. But first, I'm going to give a few instructions about your interface, as well as say a few words about the IMC and the Consumer Electronics Show coming up in January in Las Vegas, of course. You can see a full schedule for this and other conference tracks in the resources section of your interface. I'll be introducing our moderator for today's conference track, my good friend Benson Chan from Strategy of Things Group, in just a moment, but first we need to cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen are multiple application widgets that you can use. All of the widgets are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. You can expand your slide area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. The webcast is being streamed through your computer, so there is no dial-in number. For the best audio quality, please make sure your computer speakers or headset are turned on and the volume is up so you can hear the presenter. If your slides are delayed, pushing F5 on your keyboard will refresh the page. For the best audio quality, please make sure your computer speakers or headset are turned on and the volume is up so you can hear the presenter. If you have any questions during the webcast, please note you can submit them at any time through the Q&A widget. The presenters may answer the questions at the end of each session, but please feel free to ask questions at any time. Rest assured, we will have a record of your question tied to your registration, and we will be able to answer those questions offline if we don't get to them during the live presentation. Now, just a quick word about the IMC before I move on to our subject. The IoT M2M Council is the largest professional organization dedicated to the IoT sector, comprised of 25,000 individual enterprise users, product makers and OEMs, and apps developers that deploy IoT technology. We call them our adopter members, and they join the IMC for access to our content, which includes the most extensive online library of use cases, white papers, and ebooks, our on-demand events, template RFPs and other sourcing guidelines, and just a host of good content. Important to note that they come to us from 27 different vertical markets of application, everything from automotive manufacturing to energy and utilities, to medical devices, to retail point of sale. They're also based all over the globe. Only 30% of our adopter members are from North America. Though all of our content is in English, the rest are fairly evenly dispersed around on every continent. The IMC Board of Governors is comprised of about 35 companies that provide IoT solutions. We call them sustainer member companies, and they join the IMC for exclusive access to our community for purposes of thought leadership, lead generation, promotion, and research. Our mission at the IMC is to accelerate the adoption of IoT technology for the public good by bringing our adopters and our sustainers together. And we look at today's conference track on sustainability as exactly in keeping with that mission. This conference is also, online conference session is also being supported by the Consumer Technology Association and the Consumer Electronics Show. Everybody knows CES, right? What you may not know is that CES has become the largest IoT event in the world as far as we're concerned. It's long been known as an event for technology innovation in crucial IoT sectors like automotive, health and wellness, and smart homes. But more recently, it's become a major gathering of the year for IoT infrastructure, smart cities, AI and machine learning, and robotics. I like to think IMC's partnership with the CTA has something to do with that. We'll be organizing IoT Week at CES, where we'll be working with the show to produce conference programming, recording interviews and panels on the show floor, hosting networking and press events, and of course, organizing the IoT Infrastructure Pavilion in the North Hall of the LVCC. With that, I'd like to introduce Benson Chan of Strategy of Things Group. Benson is not just a founder of Strategy of Things Group, but he's also the chairman of the NIST IoT Advisory Board. The National Institute of Standards and Technology is the group within the Department of Commerce that is ostensibly tasked with recommending how the U.S. government will be spending all those billions on infrastructure as it regards IoT technology. Benson, welcome. Good morning.
Okay, thank you, Keith, for that introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good day to our audience from all over the world. Today, our topic is IoT brings sustainability to public grids, and I'll just read the abstract. So innovative IoT technology is enabling businesses and communities to execute on a variety of sustainability initiatives. For example, integrating IoT into the home and community solar energy systems helps those systems manage more effectively and stabilize the local grid. IoT sensors can help conserve water use, like for example in irrigation systems or in farming systems, and manage sewer and waste systems more efficiently. Air quality networks in many of the cities that we live in, right, help monitor and mitigate public health risk, enhance traffic planning, and encourage carpooling. So in this session, we'll explore other ways that IoT is making sustainability initiatives more effective. And we have 4 great panelists here today. So what we'll do is we'll start with introductions. I'll introduce myself a little bit more, and we'll share a couple slides, and each of our panelists will introduce themselves, their company, and share a few slides. So that's about 15 minutes. And then from there, we'll spend the next 25 minutes just answering questions, and then I think at the end we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. So please, as Keith mentioned earlier, please, if you have any questions, please submit them through the chat box here. So with that, let's just go into introductions. Okay, so my name is, again, my name is Benson Chan. I'm the COO and co-founder of Strategy of Things. Feel free to connect with me by LinkedIn or by email. So at Strategy of Things, we're an innovation company. We help cities, communities, and businesses become much more responsive, resilient, and smarter. We do this through science, strategy, and technology, emerging technologies. We offer 4 levels of services: strategy and planning, innovation project and execution. So for example, we built San Mateo County's smart city strategy, smart county strategy. We built and ran and operated their innovation lab. And then when those pilot projects go to scale, we help them with scaling those projects. So some of the projects, pilot projects that we've done in the lab, they're now about 3 or 4 of them have gone full deployment mode. We're building out a smart corridor. It's a $25 million smart corridor out in San Mateo County. So some of the projects, the IoT projects that we've done there as pilots, are now going into a scaling mode. And then finally, we do innovation research, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So Keith mentioned the National Institute of Standards and Technology. So about 3 years ago, we were awarded a federal grant to look at IoT technology infrastructure, where the gaps are, where industry isn't doing that the federal government should be doing. So for example, the things that their industry isn't doing now, and maybe there isn't the resources or the research in it. So the federal government is looking at identifying those areas that they can step in and do that research either through themselves, through the national labs, or through university grants or through industry grants. And then 3, 4, 5 years from now, when some of the research is done, transfer that technology into industry so they can continue the acceleration and adoption of IoT development. We looked across 10 industries, one of them being the energy sector. And these industries that we're looking at, we believe that's where IoT has a strategic impact, but they're also vital to the national economic security of the United States. So as part of the research, we looked at the energy. Renewable energy is one of the hottest areas for IoT right now. So in the United States, about 22% of the energy that's from the energy sources before it converted to electricity is from renewable sources: hydropower for water power, geothermal, solar and wind. Right? Solar and wind are 2 of the fastest growing areas for renewable energy. So that's a pretty big area of opportunity. But in terms of electricity generation, right, anywhere from generation, transmission, distribution, and consumption, right, those are opportunities for IoT. In fact, in the consumption area, I think Alex, you'll talk about that. That's one of the hottest areas for renewable energy. That's one of the hottest areas for IoT. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. I'll pause here. I'll turn it over to you, Alex, to introduce yourself and your company.
Yes, thank you, Benson, and hello, everybody. It is great to be here today. My name is Alex Bajanov. I'm the founder and president of Lumen. At Lumen, we believe that the future of the grid will look like a combination of multiple microgrids. Every building in the future will be its own microgrid. While still being connected to the larger grid, every building will be doing the real-time act of balancing supply and demand of power, and where supply can be coming from the broader grid or can be coming from on-site distributed energy resources such as solar or energy storage or bidirectionally capable electric vehicle that's plugged in, in your garage, and then naturally understanding and managing where that power is flowing to, which appliances and which use cases in your house or any building, really commercial or industrial. And we also believe that these microgrids or buildings will be interacting with each other and coming together to form certain pools, or what today is known as virtual power plants, to provide services to the broader grid. And really what we're seeing right now is, Benson, I don't know how many slides you have, but if you have several, you can probably move, switch further. What we're seeing right now is, of course, the rapid need for decarbonization. Really, the answer to this challenge, the global challenge today, is we need to electrify really, everything. In whether it's transportation, electric vehicles, whether it's end-use appliances, heating, water heating, space heating, and so on. And unfortunately, our grid today is not ready to take on all this new massive load that's coming its way. And really, the grid has to develop the ability to manage the edge of the grid, so something that's traditionally called behind the meter territory, which is really inside your house, inside your building, all these end appliances, all these behind the meter solar and storage systems. Excuse me. And that's the big problem. The grid is not ready to grow quick enough to adopt all these new electrified use cases, and it doesn't have the capabilities today to manage the grid edge. And that's where, with Lumen, we come with a solution for a distributed energy management platform. And Benson, you can switch further. We develop and deploy, oh, that's not us. Okay, so I guess I only have 2 slides. We develop and deploy Lumen Energy Management Platform that has both hardware and software component. The hardware component is something that we call distributed smart panel, which goes into your house, attaches to your existing circuit breaker panel in home wiring, and enables monitoring and control of individual circuits in your home, as well as interconnects with your home solar, home battery, and enables you to participate in broader grid programs, such as demand response with your utility or your local or regional wholesale market for demand response, or your energy, enables people to take advantage and benefit from certain utility rates, such as time of use, or demand charge, and so on. We really heavily rely on the IoT technology because we deploy these systems and really enable this grid edge energy management. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you, Alex. Luigi?
Live. And what we do at Live is we build the largest data network for what concerns cellular connectivity. Customers can connect to enable . a multitude of sensors and devices, which can also be used for.
Benson, I think Luigi is breaking up somewhat.
Network, as well as including for all.
Maybe we want to come back to Benson, and Rula can, or we want to come back to Luigi, and Rula can provide him with a dial-in.
You can very well.
Yeah. It's breaking up. It's breaking up. So Benson, maybe we can push forward to the next speaker, and Luigi can dial in.
Yep. Okay. I think Mike.
Yeah, good day, everybody. This is Mike Farian. I'm the CTO with Multitech. And at a glance, Multitech is a manufacturer of IoT devices, IoT sensors, gateways. We're really focused on wireless technologies, including being a founding member of the LoRaWAN Alliance, or the LoRa Alliance. So we use these core wireless technologies of LoRaWAN, Bluetooth, public and private cellular technologies, to enable sensors for wireless connectivity, to enable devices to be wirelessly connected over gateways, and usually in the pursuit of connected products and connected services with our customers. So in some cases, this could be distributed energy resources that need to be communicating with each other across the grid or across microgrids, as Alex pointed out. In other cases, it could be other kinds of connected assets that, of course, we're on this quest to electrify everything, across all kinds of sectors and industries, but also, making more efficient use of those resources. So it's great if a fleet of vehicles, a truck or a service fleet, for example, becomes electrified or moves to some sort of zero carbon energy sources. But there's also huge opportunities to retrain how we use those resources, using data from the field to say, let's not roll a truck. What if we could reduce the amount of activities that we have to do for these services by 20, 30% by bringing back data, as well as reduce the energy footprint when we are putting those assets into utilization. So in who we do this for, again, we typically are enabling connected products or connected services for various OEMs and solutions providers. So whether that's converting what would typically be just a simple device that might have a high service cost out in the field, turning that into a smart product or into a connected product, such that they can reduce the amount of overhead of servicing that equipment, reduce the amount of hours in the field, the amount of time on the road, and things like that, and really head towards this whole end-to-end solutions enablement and connected systems and systems of systems, which one example would be those connected microgrids that Alex had discussed.
Okay. Let's see. That's a good one. Okay, so thank you, Mike. And Jitendra, I'll have you introduce yourself and your company.
Okay, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Good morning, Benson and everyone else that's with us today. Again, thanks for having me on this panel to discuss this very important topic. Again, my name is Jitendra Vora. I'm the Senior Director of Carrier Relations at Telit, so I'm responsible for continuously keeping our technology roadmap aligned with all the carriers. I'm going to use this slide to introduce you to Telit, by leveraging this IoT solutions ecosystem diagram. This was created by Beecham Research to show the IoT value chain. It basically shows the first mile of IoT. On the left-hand side, you have sensors, actuators, and devices that are sitting at the edge. Then on the right side, you have the other end of the IoT value chain, where all the applications sit in the cloud. Then everything in between the device and the cloud are the various domains, such as that's shown in the boxes, such as the edge hardware domain, the wide area domain, the software cloud, and lastly, the applications. So keep in mind, IoT is all about connectivity, connecting the devices at the edge with the cloud application to exchange the data back and forth. So you may be wondering, what is Telet's role in this ecosystem, or what is Telet doing to help our customers to connect their devices to their cloud applications? So bottom line is we created 3 main pillars for our offering to help our customers connect to their devices and bring all the data back to their cloud applications. So our first pillar is our module business. So we were born inside the wireless communication module space, over 2 decades ago. Then in time, we learned from our customers that whenever they need to send data, they need more than just the hardware modules. They need a cellular plan. So in order to help those customers, we became an IoT MVNO and opened up our second pillar, which is our IoT MVNO cellular connectivity business. We did this because a large number of customers' biggest issue when it comes to connectivity is deciding which mobile network to use. How do you provision their device? How do they switch between networks if necessary? And then the third pillar of ours is a cloud platform. This is our remote management and data orchestration platform. By data, I mean a connection to the devices, monitoring the health of those devices, and also the sensor data. Our platform can help manage the data and also orchestrate the data into the cloud. So put it simply, just to kind of wrap this slide up, with the combination of our 3 pillars, the IoT, cellular connectivity, our module business, and cloud platform, we want to enable IoT solutions to our customers and make it easy as possible for them to be successful in their digitization projects. So with that, I'll move to the next slide here. And basically, I'm going to use this slide. So basically, this diagram here was created by Accenture to kind of highlight the smart energy and utilities operations ecosystem. I decided to show this to kind of frame up today's discussion on sustainability in the grid and the utility space. The bullets towards the left side of the slide highlight the segments of the smart energy utilities ecosystem where IoT can help to improve sustainability and reduce energy consumption. So we at Telet are very active in many of these segments, and that is the perspective I will provide to you today throughout this panel. Before I walk you through an example or two, I just wanted to highlight, Telet has a long history working on private network projects with utilities globally. We've been supporting private cellular deployments for utilities with smart metering projects in Europe since the early days of 450 megahertz. So I did not want to list too many examples of projects in this introductory section, mainly because we will be getting into a deeper dive on that during the interactive panel discussion. But let me just briefly talk about one bullet. The second one, distribution hub, network diagnostics, and preventive maintenance. This is about remote monitoring tools for the distribution grid for all the substations. Tele customers such as Multitech manufacture devices with our solutions, allowing utilities to keep an eye on the key parts of their distribution network. So on the distribution side of the advanced network diagnostics and preventive maintenance is where a lot of the waste and drain is detected and diagnosed, as an example. So basically, I look forward to the discussion, and I'll turn it back to Benson at this point.
Okay. Thank you,
Benson,
for that.
Benson, should we check in with Luigi to see if he's back with us? Luigi, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
You're coming through loud and clear.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's start again, Luigi.
So, sorry for the hiccup, guys.
No worries.
Yeah. So what I was saying is, I'll be very brief. So what we do at FlowLive is building a large and hyperlocal data network. With hyperlocal, we mean that there is one single cloud with breakouts for cellular connection, as well as LTE 5G private networks, and also satellite providers for narrowband IoT, for example, that we are including. And this all converges in one cloud that we provide to our partners, and they can provide in this way connectivity to a multitude of end users and a huge amount of sensors and devices, which ultimately are used to deploy smart energy solutions, like, for example, water metering and water leak detection, as well as smart lighting, which in turn reduces the energy consumption because lights on the streets can be managed much better, and other use cases, for example, waste management or vehicle telematics. So what we do is we enable devices to be connected to the network via cellular, via satellite, as well as via 5G private networks, all within one SKU.
Okay. Did you have another slide, Luigi? Was that it? Okay, I think that was it. Okay, yeah. Well, thank you panelists for introducing yourselves and your companies. So let's go to the first question. And Alex, I'm gonna start off with you first. There's a lot of talk and interest in sustainability. So for example, even in the U.S., the Inflation Reduction Act, right, has a lot of money coming down from the federal government for studies, green and climate action activities and initiatives. Right? What's driving this interest? It's not just the U.S., it's around the world. Right? What's driving this interest?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all over the world. And I think it is really demonstrating that there are multiple trends underpinning this. This is not just one government initiative or one policy. You're absolutely right mentioning the Inflation Reduction Act. It has a lot of amazing incentives for the space, anywhere from tax credits to direct subsidies to a lot of new kind of policy aspects. But I would probably list a few other trends as well. First of all, we are at the point where the technology for energy sustainability, for clean energy generation, for energy storage, for transportation in EV charging, and so on, all of these technologies have crossed the chasm of being kind of in negative ROI, so to speak. So put it plainly, it makes financial sense to deploy solar panels. It makes financial sense to deploy wind turbines and so on. And the industry at Broad has learned how to do this efficiently at scale. And of course, another big topic is that I mentioned is decarbonization. The global awareness of climate change and some of the really international incentives that are pushed across multiple countries are taking off, and a lot of people make the decision to transition towards, for example, an electric vehicle. And we see this in numbers, right? This year was the first year in the U.S. when I think it was second quarter when the sales of new cars, the EVs crossed the 5% mark, which is considered as the kind of the tip point, right? After that, the acceleration becomes exponential. So all of that brings, again, it's almost like a perfect storm in a good way that underpins this interest in sustainability, that underpins the interest in developing both our grids, our infrastructure, but also the grid edge and microgrid technology, various technologies, in move towards more sustainable and renewable energy. And then, of course, we should not forget the ongoing crisis, the energy crisis that impacts fossil fuel market, whether it's oil or natural gas internationally. And I'm sure that a lot of countries and governments are looking at this and thinking, okay, can I really depend on external fossil fuel supply? Can my economy depend on that? Is this really the way we want to go? Is this too risky? Is this too expensive down the road, whether just from price perspective or from strategic perspective? And the beauty of clean energy, among other things, of course, is that it can be generated locally. You can generate electricity, if we're talking about somebody's home, it's right there, but you can also generate it locally on the neighborhood scale or a city scale or some county or state scale. And that removes the dependency on some other third actors that may or may not act reasonably and logically. So these are, I think, all the just maybe even I missed a few, and I'm sure my colleagues here will add more. But these are some of the factors that go into this interest.
Okay, thank you. I just want to open it up to the other panelists if they have any thoughts on this topic, on this question.
Yeah, Benson, one thing I would add is, if, of course, all of these companies have, sustainability and ESG, goals and objectives, but also, the financial interests are very well aligned because generally speaking, as, sustainability and efficiency and effectiveness are really highly correlated. So as you make better use of your assets, better use of your resources, at the same time, you're lowering your consumption of natural resources and you're reducing your waste. So it drives a lot of financial alignment as well. And those factors come together along with the technologies that we're seeing to help drive this from a carbon neutral perspective. So I think we're seeing in the commercial space a lot of really well aligned interests behind all this movement.
Okay, thank you. What role does IoT play in helping drive sustainability? Right? Based on, I know you guys all work on various projects across the board, but what are some of the examples of projects that you've come across in your work? And, Alex, maybe I'll start with you again, and then we'll let the panel answer this question.
Thank you. Really, you cannot you cannot overestimate the role of IoT here, and it is quite unique and new. This is very different from when we think about energy and grid management. Naturally, historically, utility companies and grid operators have relied on certain technologies. For example, AMI, or advanced metering infrastructure, smart meters. And typically, right, these were technologies that were proprietary, which means they were not using, the common kind of people internet. They would use proprietary mesh networks that would be deployed and supported by certain companies and utilities, whatnot. And at the age where you really need to get deep insights into the end users of electricity, into the distributed generation, and a lot of, really, I know this may sound like a buzzword, but we're talking about amounts of data that do represent the big data. This is, we're talking about the amounts of data that have to be captured and transferred and stored at a scale that, the energy industry has not really seen before. And then, of course, the other side of the equation is control. So, not only capturing the data, but acting upon it. All of this is enabled by IoT. I think today we already touched on connectivity or communication. So all of these sensors and, controlling hardware devices have to be connected and have to be connected in real time. And this is, again, as I said, very different from what the industry has seen, up till now. Because if you're talking about smart meters, for example, which is probably the closest thing to IoT in the kind of energy or utility world, we are talking about 15-minute increments. That's the typical standard interval how smart meters operate, right? They collect data every 15 minutes. Now, with your traditional IoT, right, and I can speak for Lumen here, we're talking about thousands of measurements per second. This is the data that cannot be handled by the existing networks. This is where IoT, internet, cloud technologies are really coming into play in providing a lot of benefit to the grid. I think I hope we can touch on this later today. There's, of course, the other side of this coin, which is how reliable and secure these technologies are and what can and should be done to make them, let's call it utility grade, because we're talking about critical infrastructure here, which has to be, very secure and reliable, of course. But that's, IoT really, moves this industry forward. And one more piece, and I promise I will shut up. One more piece is, it's not just the local to cloud kind of IoT connectivity. We're also talking about multiple appliances, multiple endpoints being able to talk to each other, sometimes bypassing the cloud. That's another form or flavor of IoT, right? It's not local to cloud to local, it's local to local, because that enables speed, that enables additional security in some cases, and that does cater to certain use cases in the industry, such as, for example, grid outages and Ethernet outages, where you still need to have the smart, controllable, manageable grid edge, but you may not have the internet connectivity in some cases, but you still need that system to operate. And then it has to be locally operated and connected locally. So that's obviously another use case.
Okay, great. Maybe Jitendra, you can also answer that question.
Yeah, so thanks, Benson. Yeah, so I actually believe IoT will be a game changer for sustainability. With IoT, you create a network of connected smart things that will make humankind more productive than ever. So as more and more of these devices go from dumb to smart, they'll share data with each other seamlessly and then use machine learning to modify that data in real time. And these modifications will make processes run faster, achieve efficiencies and also achieve savings. Last but definitely not least, it's going to be better for the environment as well. And we at Telit, just to name a couple examples of projects that that I came across, one is wastewater management. So we have customers using our products, for example, they're using our modules, connectivity, and platforms to help them leverage IoT to not waste water, which is a very precious resource, especially many places around the world. So we're helping customers ensure accurate measurement and reporting wastewater depth rates aligned with flow rates. And that's just one example of a project.
Okay, thank you. I guess, sure, Mike or Luigi.
Yeah, in general, Benson, if I can add one thing, I think in general, IoT helps in reducing, enabling us to have a lot of data, which ultimately allow companies to reduce the amount of electricity used in smart lighting, reduce the amount of water because you can detect a leak much earlier than before, reduce the fuel your waste collection truck needs because you can optimize the route. So I think reduction is an important word when it comes to IoT in sustainability.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Let's see. So let me go to the next question, and this is kind of tied to a question that's come in from the audience as well. But what are some of the key technologies that enable the IoT for sustainability? I heard a couple of things. I heard data, I heard connectivity, right? And I heard a few other things here. So maybe Mike, I'll start with you on that one.
Yeah, there's really a whole collection of technologies. So certainly sensors, right? And along with sensors comes edge compute, and then also cloud models, whether it's edge to edge or edge to cloud and hybrid cloud models. Certainly we're seeing machine learning take a bigger and bigger role all the time. And then kind of holding all this together as we want to move all this data around, it's really important that how much our wireless technologies have advanced in the last decade, really. So things have really settled out in terms of using cellular, public and private cellular, whether it's 4G, 5G, using wireless sensing technologies like LoRaWAN. Certainly, Wi-Fi is in use, but not so much IoT. You see Wi-Fi a lot in consumer IoT and obviously in business machine type devices, but not so much in IoT type technology. So, but we have this nice spread of wireless technologies now. Then you choose that based on how much bandwidth do you need, how much latency do you need, what sort of power access do you have. But we really have a whole set of standards now to support all these IoT applications.
Okay, Thank you.
Yeah, Benson, I just wanted to add one if I can. I think what Mike listed, from a cellular perspective, lots of great examples he gave. But when I think specifically about a key technology that will enable IoT for sustainability, another good one is new SIM technologies. For example, Tele has been a pioneer at introducing a software-only SIM that we call SimWise to the market, back in 2017. And this product does two things. One is it reduces the amount of plastic produced in the industry, and number two, at some point it reduces the amount of plastic that will get wasted and recycled. So this has become a trend now, and so now there's more new SIM technologies that don't require a plastic card, but will support the iSIM in the exact same chip you use for your cellular communication. So that's another example of a technology.
Benson, I would like to add, maybe this is kind of the next layer on top of, the traditional, if you will, communication technologies, whatnot. But something we're definitely seeing in the field is that there are a lot of standards and protocols out there that are being used across the industry, even, at a kind of local home level, right? When you have multiple devices, you're looking at a wild set of things, anywhere from Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to more specific things like, Modbus protocols, even sometimes CAN bus protocols, and a few others. And what is very important down the road is that we have the ability to interconnect and communicate across different devices, kind of using some sort of standard. And of course, there's especially in the smart home kind of space, there's a lot of buzz about the new standard called Matter, which I'm sure folks have heard of. And whether or not that's the technology, I guess, is yet to be seen. But definitely, kind of creating some sort of unification layer is absolutely critical for successful adoption of IoT in sustainability and energy space.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing you brought up, interoperability. I think that's a major gap in IoT today. In fact, that's what our research is finding out, that across all industries, not just the energy and utilities industry, but interoperability is one of the major barriers today. Yeah. I want to, I'm looking at the audience question. There's a question that came in, and maybe it was partially answered, but since we're on this topic, what forms of IoT connectivity do you see in use today, and what's coming? Right? So, for example, LTE, NB-IoT, 5G, Wi-Fi, LoRaWAN. Mike or Jitender, or Luigi, let's start with you on that one.
Yeah, so definitely narrowband IoT, LTE-M are by now a standard used in many scenarios, from smart metering to asset tracking and also smart lighting. But we also see new cases coming up with 5G. Especially in the US, actually, in North America, many new opportunities for 5G use cases, which enable to do new things, to do more rapid things, to do a better smart grid management, because the latency is way lower than what we're used, since today. So narrowband, Cat-M1, a de facto technology used in many applications and really helping to deploy a lot of sensors that can run for a long time with battery, while 5G is enabling situations and solutions that require lower latencies and a lot more data to be exchanged. So this is the difference, and this is how these technologies are helping also sustainability.
Yes, I thought Mike kind of touched upon this, but obviously there's no one technology that fits all. It could be LPWA, Cat1, Cat4, but the selection of the technology really depends on the use case and requirements of the application. But regardless of the technology, I guess the intention is to connect things and make them remotely monitored, right? That's really what everyone's trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I'd add there's a regional flair to that as well. So certainly at a technology space, like I said earlier, you have to start with how much bandwidth do I need, how much latency do I need, and how much power do I have available. You certainly can't battery power a 5G installation, for example, with a small long life battery. The other side is that network available in my area? Am I going with a public network where I expect to work with a carrier? For example, if you wanted to deploy narrowband IoT here in the U.S., very limited in where you could deploy that with various carriers. CAT-M, a little less limited, but it's also very regional. So you have to have the ability to fail over from your maybe CAT-M connection to a CAT-4 or CAT-6 because it doesn't have a CAT-M supported everywhere nationwide, versus some areas in Asia have very broad narrowband IoT coverage, for example. So a lot of times you also have to make a decision, is this going to be on a public network? Am I going to lease this network from somebody else? And if so, what's available in my target area? Or is it going to be a private network where I say, I'm going to take a responsibility for managing that network myself, and whether I deploy my own LoRaWAN or I deploy my own private LTE or private 5G connection even. So yeah, a lot of factors that go in there, but really to answer the audience question, it is all of the above. There's not a one size fits all here. It all depends on a number of factors.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting and great answer. We did some work with utilities, and one of the big concerns for them, especially for IoT, is really around security, right? So they said, for some of the other connectivity methods, they don't feel that it's secure enough. And so that was for them, the grid was mission critical, right? And they can't afford to take any kind of hits. So as you look at some of these solutions, you're developing some solutions, the security, the connectivity method is also very important, especially in this use that from a resilience perspective, like fault tolerance and resilience. So that's a major area that we've been seeing and hearing about as well. Let me go to another question. What are some of the challenges and opportunities for IoT and sustainability? And I think you touched upon where your company plays a role, but maybe what are those opportunities? Let's just say challenges and opportunities. So Jitendra, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Benson. Yeah, I guess from our position in the ecosystem, one of the big challenges has to do with the slow-moving market. That's very conservative and risk averse and strongly regulated. Therefore, it's not easy to get new technologies approved. It's not easy to quickly roll out new technologies. And with that challenge, I actually see a lot of opportunities. I see opportunity to help the environment with sustainability. I see an opportunity to help the bottom line in terms of reduced costs, in terms of increased efficiency and greater productivity, and an opportunity to enable new segments into the utility space, such as EV charging. 5 years ago, for example, EV charging was barely talked about, and now it's one of the most rapid growing industries. This is just one example of a new opportunity, but there's many more. And lastly, I just want to say from a new opportunity, I think adopting IoT for sustainability is becoming a huge new opportunity because of all the importance it's received from, the young generation and the really skilled people. A lot of these people are starting to say they're being very selective on which company they want to work for. Some of them only want to work for companies that believe in these causes. So I think that's also an opportunity from that perspective.
Great. Mike, Luigi, or Alex, feel free to chime in.
Yeah. One thing I would add is, so we work with companies all the time, helping them enable these connected products, connected services. And certainly there's, we a lot of times focus on the technology challenges and the integration of the technology. And those are real challenges, but they are getting better and easier as all these technologies mature and our engineering tools and skill sets are kind of catching up with all the cloud-based computing that goes along with this. But the side we don't talk a lot about is the business process changes. They have to come along. So, if you're a company that's trying to manage a lot of remote assets and possibly a lot of remote field staff and service staff to go along with that, just getting you all this data from those remote assets, that in itself doesn't save you any money. The savings doesn't come in, the sustainability improvements don't come in until you adapt your business processes driven by that data. So we see that being, one of the things that slows company adoption down quite a bit is they can prove an ROI and a proof of concept, but for that to really roll out in an organization, they have to change their business practices and business processes to go along with that. And that can be a harder journey for many companies than the technology itself.
I totally agree with Mike. It's very often, the how to use the data is even more important sometimes to how to get the data.
Yeah.
I'll probably put on the end user hat on, which is a person who consumes electricity, and really there is I think it's a challenge and opportunity there. That is, we are all very much accustomed to electricity consumption that is nearly unlimited. We just get home, flip a switch, light comes on. We plug something into our wall plug, and it works, right? It powers or whatever, emits light or heats, whatnot. And really, the challenge here is that with the energy transition, with the electrification of everything, with the adoption of IoT in management of the grid, our homes are going to be much more interactive and dynamic in the way they're using energy. So let me give you this example. I think EV charging was just mentioned. We know today that there is no chance the grid as it is can cater to a substantial percentage of cars that are switched to EVs. Put it differently, if everyone were to replace their car with an EV, the grid by no means is capable of providing all that electricity to charge all those cars. And by the way, that point is not at 100%. Like, it's not that we all have to switch till that collapse happens. Like, it's actually a fairly small number. And really what that means is that your home EV charging or any other EV charging, maybe you're charging at work or elsewhere, will be somewhat dynamic. Like, you may be able to charge only within certain hours or at different price or at, on demand, or there are all these different use cases. And there's a challenge of educating and changing the current habits, how people consume electricity. And at the same time, obviously you want to make that seamless. So really the big opportunity is in solving this problem. Like, how do you make it subtle? How do you make it kind of less, how do you create less impact on the user's day-to-day life, and at the same time provide all this value and enable sustainability, enable decarbonization, and all other things. That's going to be really an interesting problem to solve over the next really couple of years.
Thank you for that. I'd just like to remind the audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat box. We have a couple more minutes here. So I'm going to, I guess, just ask one more question. What are some of your best practices and lessons learned in doing IoT for sustainability? And I'll just open it up to the panel.
Yeah, one thing I've observed working with our companies, our partner companies, is one thing is they really need to treat this. This isn't an event, right? It's a journey. So it's a continuous improvement process, and it starts with having the right metrics, and then just a continuous improvement around how do we drive that metric to the right end game. So if you start with the wrong metric, or if you start with the idea that, look, this is a project and it has a start and an end date, and then we're done, right? We're done with our digital transformation. We're done with our sustainability program. That's just not the right mindset to go into. So, and then taking the time to map the business process changes that need to happen to go along with the new data that the technology is going to bring you. And then on top of that, choose your partners, decide which of these pieces are core expertise inside the company and which pieces you need to reach outside to help avoid all those pitfalls that as you tackle a lot of these new technologies.
Yeah, I would probably touch on some of the lessons learned and new best practices as it relates to this tricky thing called supply chain in IoT. I'm sure a lot of people on the call today are well aware of the ongoing crisis that's our supply chain, especially such an important component of it for any IoT enabled technology, which is microchips. I mean, there are different flavors of that: microprocessors, microcontrollers, sensors, whatnot. But today, the engineering and development of new products and technologies looks very different from the supply chain perspective, where a couple, maybe 3 years ago, when you would build something, you just pick what suits best your product, and you assume it's there, right? You assume it's available. Today, you have to be designing with availability in mind. You need to be locking certain technologies, certain supply chains up front. You need to be very thoughtful on the volumes, the timing, the lead times, the pricing, of course. And also, you need to be thoughtful about the ability to interchange. Oh, I cannot get this flavor of a communications chip. Maybe I can switch to another. Maybe my software is capable of doing that. Like, there are all these new best practices that go into development, which really are extremely important in the world we live in.
Okay. Thank you. Jitendra or Luigi, do you want to answer this?
One thing sorry, Jitendra, go on.
No, go ahead. You got Luigi. I'll go
All right.
to you.
No, one thing that I wanted to add on top of what Alex said is today how we plan and design completely changed. But one thing that we've learned in the past few years is that sometimes companies think that we usually suggest is try to lean on companies that already did it, on solutions that are already in the market. Because as Mike said before, very often it's not really about how do I get the data, it's how does my business process change as a result of getting the data. No? So I think a suggestion to whoever is starting an IoT project is focus on not only on the technical part, but also on the business part, and see whether there's already a solution out there that can help on the technical part. That was it, so please go on.
Yeah, just really quick. So I think from our experience working on large projects, we've observed customers would just deploy end device with a module in it. But after observing this, we highly recommend our customers to put in place from the beginning the right tools to be able to remotely monitor their products at any given time, so they can immediately detect odd behaviors, if and when that happens. So that's one of the things that we recommend, and they can also fix problems with firmware over their firmware over their upgrades, things of that nature. So we recommend that from out the gate to our customers, so they can kind of be better prepared.
Thank you, Jitendra. So I think we're almost up at the top of the hour. I guess panelists, if you take 30 seconds, just share any last thoughts, any words of wisdom.
I'll start, if you don't mind. I'm just super excited about the times we're living in. We're looking at a major shift in how we consume, generate, store, transmit, distribute electricity across the world. And this is really exciting because we're building a better world, and IoT enables this transition alongside with obviously some other technologies such as PV and storage, whatnot. So it's an amazing time to be in, and really thankful for everyone joining this call and learning about it.
Yeah, I'd just like to. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, go right ahead.
No, I just wanted to finish with reiterating something I said before. So in my opinion, the exciting thing in IoT for sustainability is we should all think, how can IoT help us in reducing our consumption in general? That's what I have in mind. That's, I think, what we should all focus on.
If I can just really quickly say, yeah, so I mean, from my perspective, we're really happy to be in the forefront of this new business for utilities, and together with our ecosystem partners that are on this panel, to support the customers in their digitization transformation with our products and solutions, and we'll be happy to help address any questions anyone may have.
Yeah, and I would just echo everybody's sentiments there. It's a really exciting time, and it goes beyond just electrical grids and electrifying everything. We're talking about all kinds of infrastructure here, whether it's public and private transportation infrastructure, use of natural resources like water, irrigation, and agriculture. The technologies are coming together, and the cost points and deployability of those technologies to really be impactful. And we've come out of almost a decade of seeing lots of proof of concepts, but not so many things move into high production, to things are really starting to move. I know myself and all the panelists feel it now. These solutions are starting to move very, very quickly now. So it is very exciting times.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your words of wisdom and some of the insights that you share. I'm going to turn it back over to Keith, and I think Keith close it out.
Yeah, well, hey, thanks to everybody, especially our panelists and you, Benson, but thanks to everybody in the audience as well for joining us. Really interesting stuff. I certainly learned a lot, and we've got more coming. So as we stated earlier in the track, we'll be doing IoT Week at CES in Las Vegas in early January, and then later in the month, on the 18th, we'll be doing sort of a CES wrap-up where we'll be talking about things that we saw at the show. So please join us for those events. You can register online at any time at www.iotm2mcouncil.org. And hey, thanks everyone for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.